Why do people use Amsteel as a backup line, and how do they do it? Check it out on this episode of How Not to Highline. Hi, I'm Ryan Jinks and welcome to my garage. Today we have a pretty cool episode. Not only are we going to go over the pros and cons of using Amsteel as a Highline backup and the safety issues that go along with it, but we also went to Consumnes River Gorge and dropped a 170-pound haul bag on our Amsteel backup to test the forces on the bag and the anchors. So why would people use Amsteel as a Highline backup? Well, it's because it's super light. This 6mm or 1/4" Amsteel here is only 24 grams per meter. Now compare that to Spider Silk, which is 48 grams per meter, and if you had a 200-meter rig, this would save you 10.5 pounds. Or even if you take Moonwalk at 33 grams per meter, that would save you almost 6.5 pounds on your 200-meter rig. The lightweight benefit of Amsteel is not just for hiking a lighter load in, but when you're walking on a Highline, it makes it easier the lighter it is. So what are the downsides to using Amsteel as a Highline backup? If you use loose backups, the Amsteel could flip up on top and your foot could step on this round Amsteel, and it can be a really shitty feeling when your foot slips out from underneath you because it rolls off of the Highline. Another real downside for using Amsteel as a backup is the safety concerns if you had to take a backup leash fall on something with almost 0% stretch. So we decided to get some friends together and drop a haul bag onto the Amsteel with 170 pounds of rocks just to see what would happen. So we headed out to Consumnes River Gorge in Placerville, California and rigged the 240-footer on double Spider Silk. After enjoying the fruits of our labor and highlining a bit, we thought it would be a good idea to drop a bag full of rocks onto some Amsteel. Bishop thought so too. So we created a Brummel ice splice on a thimble to attach a screamer, a shock absorber, to Jerry's dynamometer. Then Justin slid the Amsteel over and attached it to the static side. We installed the dynamometer and a screamer on our side and also attached our Amsteel with an ice splice and a thimble. We would attach the haul bag to the leash ring with another dynamometer to measure the force on the bag. Our leash consisted of a static rope on a gree-gree attached to the dynamometer so we could lower it afterwards. The bag was 5 feet away from the leash ring during the test, and we put the excess static rope in the haul bag for later. In order to temporarily attach the bag to our Highline, we tied a slip knot to some hangovers. We got the haul bag as close as we could to the Spider Silk. Justin tied into the Spider Silk, slid out towards the middle, got on top of the line, and made sure he was not going to get tangled in the Amsteel. Then he released the bag. It was pretty exciting to get to watch this part. So now that the fun was done, I set up a rappel in the middle of the Spider Silk. I lowered myself to the haul bag and lowered the bag down with the pre-installed gree-gree down to Jerry with the setup we made earlier. Afterwards, I finished rappelling myself all the way down to the ground. Then I slid across and released the Amsteel so Justin could pull it in. We inspected the screamers from both sides and found they were both fully extended. The Amsteel showed 0 signs of abrasion. Okay, enough of the test. What were the results? Did the haul bag get a spinal injury? So our 170-pound haul bag fell on 6mm or 1/4" Amsteel that was 240 feet long and with about 3 feet of sag. The dynamometer on the haul bag was 554 pounds of force, and the dynamometer on the anchors was 1,024 pounds of force. Because we used 2 Yet screamers, there was less force on the bag and the anchors than if you took a normal leash fall on that Spider Silk. Okay, we need to go over a couple disclaimers. First of all, this is not conclusive evidence. We only did one test, and such a unique system, we really shouldn't be risking our life with it after only one test. Second of all, the line wasn't taped to the main line. We have no idea how that would affect the results if those 2 lines were taped. Thirdly, the bag was not on top of the slack line, it was below it. So it would have had further to fall, therefore we have no idea how many more kilonewtons that would have added and if we would still be in the safe zone. Another huge concern is that the bag dropped 40 feet. That would have really sucked if our Highline was 39 feet high. So this system is definitely not something you want to use on a midline. Another concern people have brought up is how do you rescue somebody in that situation? We don't have a clue. I suppose you could lower a rope down to them and try hauling them back to the anchor, but this test did not have anything realistic on how to retrieve somebody if they were to fall on their Amsteel backup. using Amsteel as a Highline backup is extremely not recommended. If you're going to use Amsteel as a Highline backup line, it's extremely important to have a screamer on both ends of it. The common use of screamers is in climbing applications where you have to use shoddy trad gear and you don't want to put a factor 2 fall on something that's too small to even print how much it's rated for. The idea behind a screamer is that it is a sewn loop, wider than this, but for example, goes back and forth and is stitched down the middle. And then when it's engaged with a fall, it breaks that stitching, absorbing some of the force of that fall. So with something like Amsteel, it's extremely important to have something to absorb some of that force during a fall if you were to fall on the backup line. So on my static side, my screamer never comes off. I have made a Brummel eye splice with a proper bury with a thimble for a proper radius bend into the eye loop of my screamer. I also have a backup for my screamer. The way I've configured my backup is to have a length of Amsteel with 2 Brummeled eye splices longer than the screamer would be if it fully extended, so it doesn't stop the screamer from doing its job. To keep it tidy, I coil up the extra Amsteel and either rubber band it or Velcro it alongside of the screamer. And this screamer is for the tension side. This end goes to my master point and this end is for my Amsteel. To put the Amsteel on the web lock, you put it on just like webbing. You take a bite of Amsteel and you put it around the diverter. Instead of going around once, and instead of going around twice, you go around at least 3 times. People recommend you go around 4 times, but I don't know how they make it fit in the web lock. It's very important to have a long tail so you can tie it off back here in case it slips. Now I would put it in the web lock 4.0 eye, but if you don't have an eye large enough, you have to put it here. You cannot put it back here or the screamer won't be able to scream if need be. Since Amsteel has not been thoroughly tested as a backup for a Highline and is complicated to rig with, therefore you shouldn't use it. Hi, I'm Ryan Jinks and this was another episode of the How Not to Highline series. This is a guide for slackliners interested in transitioning into highlining. We are not here to spoon feed the right rigging techniques. We hope to empower slackliners to critically analyze any system they're going to use. Risk awareness can keep people alive. Please don't rig your first Highline without an expert. We have too many wonderful and generous people in our highlining community to go rig by yourself after watching a YouTube tutorial. Please let's keep this sport safe. And remember, since no system is perfect, therefore you shouldn't highline. Thanks for watching and please subscribe.